This is a basic tutorial on producing a picture gallery in Adobe Flash CS3. This picture gallery does not have the thumbnails, it simply has the direction arrows to skip from one picture to the next. So the first thing you need to do is load Adobe Flash CS3 and then from here select Flash File, MicroScript 3.0. When we've done that, I just want to set up which task panes I have displayed in my window. I do need the library, I need the info, transform, the colour. I actually also want the actions, so I'm going to go to window and I can click on, align, sorry. So I'm going to click on align. I do need the actions, I need the properties, I already have the actions open. If any of these task panes are not open, if you simply go to window and then click the box to open which task panes you need. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my page size and I'm going to put a black background. So if I go to modify document, my page size I want 550 by 500 and I want a black background. The hexadecimal code for black is #00000, but I can simply click the drop down arrow and click on black there. So OK, I now have a background with a black page, set up the size I want. The next thing I want to do is I want to produce 3 layers and name them. The first one photo, so I'm just going to double click and type in photo there, and then using the icon here insert a new layer and I'm going to call this layer actions, enter, and then insert another new layer and this one I'm going to call buttons, enter. The next thing I want to do is I want to drag which pictures I want to use in my gallery into the library here. So I'm just going to use some of the Windows standard pictures. So if I drag jellyfish, koala, desert, and maybe the penguins, I now have my pictures in my library. Next thing I want to do, I want to put the pictures into my Flash animation. So I need to click on the first frame in the photo layer and then simply drag from the library the picture onto the page. I now need to set the size and location of the picture. Now the important thing here is that you set all 4 pictures to the exact same size. So I'm going to set this to 350 by 250 and then the location, doesn't matter if you can't see the picture, once you put your location in the picture should move to center screen. The location here I'm going to put 100 as the X and 50 as the Y, and that brings it nicely into the center of my picture. If you're not happy with where this location, you can move your picture manually, but then you need to look at the location X and Y and ensure that you keep that the same for each of your photos. So I'm going to keep mine at 100 X and 50 Y. When I've done that, that's my frame 1 done. I'm now going to right click on frame 2 and I'm going to insert a frame 2 and insert a keyframe, insert keyframe there. Now frame 2 looks the same as frame 1, that's not a problem. Now I'm just going to repeat that process, so I'm going to drag the jellyfish, I'm going to make it the same size, 350 by 250, 100 and 50 there, and that's in exactly the same place. Again, frame 3, I'm going to insert a keyframe. It's important that you insert a keyframe, not a normal frame. Don't copy the frames, so just click on insert keyframe. And then my koala, drag that into place. Again, 350 by 250, 100 on the X and 50 on the Y. And once more, frame 4 on the photo layer, right click, insert keyframe, and drag my penguins over. And then last time 350, 250, 100 and 50. Okay, my photos are now ready, so if I look at that, I have my 4 photos all ready to go. Next thing I want to do is I want to insert the buttons. Now for the buttons I'm just going to use text. If I click on the buttons layer on the first frame here and then click on the text tool, I'm going to use webdings because they have a symbol which looks like a forward and a back arrow. So webdings, I'm going to use size 150 and I'm going to make it grey. And then if I click onto my, just going to make sure I'm on the right frame here, yeah, and then click into my picture, and if you press number 3 on your keyboard, that gives you a symbol which looks like a back arrow. And then I'm going to go to text again, same again, webdings 150, grey, click, and then number 4 on your keyboard gives you a symbol that looks like the forward arrow. I'm now going to press the select tool, and I'm going to move this roughly into place, then I'm going to move this roughly into place. I'm just going to use my arrow keys to make them about the same distance from the photo, so this distance here. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Align. I'm going to highlight both of them by pressing Shift and highlighting both of them, and then I'm going to align them vertical center. Now that puts them in the center of the page. I want them slightly higher up, but it means they're both vertically aligned in the same place. Now I'm just going to use my arrow keys whilst they're both highlighted to put them in about the place I want them. Okay, buttons are done now. Now what I want to do is I want to make these into an actual button that we can click. So to do that, I'm going to select this back button here. Now it's important you make sure you don't select both buttons, just select the one. Once you've selected it, selection tool, click on the button. Once you've done that, press F8 on your keyboard, and you get a box up like this. You need to select the type, which is button. This is my back button, so I'm going to call it BBTN for back button. Doesn't matter what you call it, but you need to remember what you've called it. Once you click OK, it should go straight to the properties. If not, click on the properties, and then you need to give it an instance name, which should be the same, BBTN, or background button. When I've done that, I just want to go back into that to make sure I did call it the right thing. When I've done that, if I go into the forwards button and then again press F8 and call that FBTN for forwards button. Again, make sure the button is selected here. Okay, and then the instance name here, FBTN. Doesn't matter what I call them as long as I remember what I call them. Once I've done that, I need to copy them buttons on the frames. So if I click on the first frame on the buttons layer and right click and then copy frames, and then click on the fourth frame here, right click and then paste frames, and then you should have, it should look identical to this. Okay, I now have my buttons. So the next thing I need to do is my actions layer. So if I click on the actions frame 1 here, I now need to put my coding in to make sure that this works correctly. If I was to play this at the moment, it would simply go through all 4 frames and then end. So such as that. I'll do it once more. So the first thing I need to do, click on actions, and then in this option here, action frames, I now need to put my coding in. The first code needs to be stop, open brackets, close brackets. Now if I was to play that, it will stop on the first frame. I'll just show you here. There you go. It's stopping on the first frame because I've told it to stop and not play as a movie. After that, if I press enter and press enter twice, I now need to go into enter the coding. So the first thing, I need to set up the 2 action options. So the first one I'm going to do is the back button, which I named bbtn. So bbtn dot add event with a capital E list, and then open brackets, mouse with a capital N, event with a capital E, dot click, capital click, comma, backwards. So again, it doesn't matter what I type here as far as backwards is concerned, but just for ease I'm going to call it backwards, spell it correct, close brackets and colon. Now this is simply telling the coding that I want to set up an event, and I want that event to call backwards, and I want that event to happen when I click my mouse button. So after that, that's a semicolon, sorry. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this, Control C, and then enter, and then Control V. This one I want to be my forwards, so I'm going to change that for an F. I'm going to change this to forwards. Okay, so I've now told it I want to set up two actions, one named backwards, one named forwards, and I want them actions to start on a mouse click. So now what I need to tell the programming is what I actually want it to do on them actions. So I'm going to do the forwards one first. So to do that, function space forwards. I want forwards, it doesn't matter, but I'm just going to make sure they're both the same. Forwards, and then brackets, event, colon, mouse event, capital M, capital E, close brackets, and then curly brackets, and then press enter. Then if, open brackets, this dot current frame, frame with a capital F, space equals space, this total frames, close brackets. So the current frame is the frame you're currently viewing. There's supposed to be a full stop here, so this full stop total frames. The total frames is the last frame. So if the current frame is the last frame, then what I want it to do, so I need to put another curly bracket here, and then enter, is if it's the last frame I want it to go to and stop at. So go to and stop, and with a capital A, stop with a capital S, brackets 1. So if it's the last frame I want it to go to and stop at frame 1 if somebody clicks the forward button. If it's not the last frame, so what I need to do here is semicolon, enter, close curly brackets, enter, else, so if it's not the last frame, and then open curly brackets, enter, next frame, again frame with a capital S, F, open brackets, close brackets, semicolon, enter, close your curly brackets, enter, and close the other curly brackets. So we've closed the same amount of brackets as we've opened. So that's done it for forwards. What I want to do now is I'm going to copy this coding and press Control C, press enter here, and press Control V. Now all I want to do is I want to change this one for the backwards. So function, I'm going to go over that, backwards, again mouse event, but this time if it's on frame 1, so if the current frame is frame 1 and the backwards button is clicked, I want it to go to the end frame, which is known as the total frames. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut this section from here, Control X, and replace that with a 1. So if the current frame is frame 1, if the mouse button is clicked, I want it to go to the last frame, which is known as total frames. If it's not on that one, then I don't want it to go to the next frame, because this is a back button, remember. I want it to go to the previous frame. So I'm just going to change that to prev frame. Okay, this should be ready to run now, so I'm going to go to Control and Test Movie. Okay, looks okay so far. Normally it comes up with errors if it's not going to work. So if I click on the forward button, yes, backward button, yes, and then I'm just going to check it at both ends. So that's my last frame, back button still works. Press it again, it should go to the first one. From the first one, it should go back to the fourth one. Okay, that works fine. The coding, if you're one of my students, you can also find in the Word document, which covers all the tutorial links. Now you try.